The Thimble family are fast asleep on the broad ledge of the kitchen window. Hidden by tall stacks of boxes on the counters, they have fashioned a surprisingly snug camp among cloths and cleaning supplies. Mr. and Mrs. Thimble, known tenderly within the family as Ma and Pa, lie side by side, tucked into the folds of a yellow dusting cloth. Ma is gently snoring, and each time she lets the air go, the soft fabric beside her lifts like a little sail. Pa sleeps in a deeper way, with a look of tranquil contentment resting upon his face. Close by, the Thimble children slumber just as soundly. Eliza and Ben have both made their beds inside the downy whirl of a feather duster. It is so big and so fluffy that lying there feels exactly like drifting on a cloud. Ordinarily, they do not sleep upon the kitchen windowsill among cloths and bottles. For years, they had their own secret rooms concealed within an old tissue box at the very back of a cupboard. There they lived in a quiet kind of bliss, hardly ever catching a glimpse of the elderly pair who owned the house, or indeed of any humans at all. But last month a moving truck arrived, and every cupboard was emptied, including theirs. As the elderly couple packed their belongings into cardboard boxes, the Thimbles suddenly found themselves without their longtime home. They were not disheartened. They chose to see the change as a promising opening, a call to explore, and the beginning of a new chapter in their shared family story. They agreed on a temporary plan. Move to the kitchen windowsill while the new people settled in. Pa was the one who picked the ledge. He reasoned that sleeping near the glass would allow them to wake with daylight. In this way, they would be up long before the humans, and the house would be theirs for a few quiet hours. They could chat and share breakfast at ease and even take their morning wash in the kitchen sink. The early start would also give them time to slip into one of their many tiny hideaways before the larger inhabitants began their day. And that is precisely what they have done for the past month. Observing the new homeowners from behind boxes, beneath furniture, and through the narrowest seams in the skirting board. Like the previous residents, the new humans are 2 in number. We shall call them the Marlows, a mother in her early 30s and a very cheerful 5-year-old daughter. The Marlows have a circle of friends, kind people who, over the last month, have helped move furniture, refresh the walls with paint, and unpack all manner of objects throughout the house. To Eliza Thimble, this alone proves that the Marlows are good-hearted folk. They must be, she insists, to have so many generous friends willing to lend their hands. Her family agrees. They have overheard snippets of conversation between mother and child, and the Marlows seem to be among the gentlest, most considerate humans the Thimbles have ever encountered. In the evenings, when the child is tucked into bed, the mother sits on the edge of the mattress and reads until the little one drifts away. Then she smooths the sheets, presses a kiss to her daughter's forehead, and tiptoes out as softly as a moth. Often, the Thimble children are a secret audience for these bedtime readings. Eliza and Ben take comfortable spots on a nearby shelf, leaning against the spines of books, listening to those soothing tales. Later, back on the kitchen ledge, they climb into their cloud-like duster and fall asleep. Although the windowsill was not their original plan, it has turned out to be a surprisingly pleasant pause in their lives. In many respects, the past month has felt like a long family holiday. The ledge has the qualities of a beloved vacation perch. They have dined splendidly on leftovers and takeaways briefly abandoned on the counter, and they have enjoyed the luxury of fresh water from the taps. Their bedding may be unconventional, but it is as soft and comforting as anything at a 5-star inn. Ma and Pa are particularly fond of the velvety dusting cloth, perfumed with lemon and lavender. Yet they all agree the greatest delight of their temporary nest is precisely what inspired Pa to choose it: the sheer loveliness of light pouring through the window. Now, at the edge of dawn, the sun begins to lift, and a gentle radiance spreads through the glass, casting a golden sheen across the family's sleeping faces and warming their skin with a tender touch. All along the ledge, the thimbles start to stir. They shift within their bedding and stretch arms and legs. Ben, the tallest, is the first to rise. He yawns with unmistakable happiness, reaching both arms overhead before bending down toward his toes, feeling the stretch along his back and legs. Finally, he sits with legs crossed and gazes at the sunrise through the window. Anyone might appreciate a sky like this, clear and blue with a round sun climbing. But for someone who spent years waking in the shadowy depth of a cupboard, the sight has a special sweetness. Soon the rest of the family joins him. Recently, this has become their morning ritual. Clamber out of their cozy nests, sit facing the glass, and watch the day arrive together. They look on as the great gold circle inches upward. It reveals the small landscape behind the house. A rectangular lawn edged with rose beds and, at the center, a stone fountain. Beyond the grass stands a typical wooden shed painted the same chestnut red as the fence enclosing the space. To human eyes, the garden might appear pleasing but ordinary. Through the thimble's eyes, everything is amplified in size and grandeur. The fence rises like protective walls, and the shed takes on the air of a royal palace, a chestnut-red facade gleaming in the morning light. In front of that palace stretch the royal grounds, a wide sweep of emerald green bordered by rose bushes as tall as trees, forming an enchanted forest whose canopy is jeweled with ruby blossoms. It is spectacular. Most striking of all is the new feature in the center, the ivory fountain. At the top of that fountain, water pours from the tip of a carved stone pineapple, spilling into a round basin below, and from there over the rim into a larger pool. It is a feast for the eyes. To the thimbles, this splendid structure is as monumental as a pyramid. They sit by the window and let its music settle upon them. To human ears, the sound is an easy trickle. To the tiny family, it is a sequence of grand, tumbling waterfalls. It is their own little Niagara playing just outside the glass. As the sun climbs, points of light dance on the surface like bright fragments of crystal. Pa, moved by the scene, tells his wife and children that even after they leave the ledge, he hopes they will come back often to admire this view. Once the sun is fully up, the family climbs down from the windowsill one by one, passing the kitchen sink. On some mornings they shower there, taking turns to descend the plug chain and stand beneath the cool drip of the tap. Nothing wakes the senses quite like that clear water. Today, though, they are only passing by. The promise of exploration leaves them lively and cheerful. The larger residents have settled in. The furniture has found its places, and the walls are freshly painted. The moment has come for the thimbles to range through the rooms and choose a new home. Over the last weeks, each family member has thought carefully about preferred locations. Because Ma and Pa believe in fairness, they have decided that every person's idea deserves equal consideration. The final choice will be made by family vote. Pa is first to present his suggestion, which is why he leads the way now. 2 trimmed toothpicks protrude from his small backpack. They are his walking sticks, invaluable for uneven ground. The thimbles are experienced explorers, and each carries a pack stocked with gear collected over the years and cleverly repurposed. Their climbing lines are braided lengths of knotted string. Their safety is secured by pins and picture hooks. With these tools they have scaled surfaces of every kind, tall or wide, polished or rough. They look like expert hikers, except their landscape is a kitchen. Instead of striding across fields, they cross marble countertops. They weave among spice racks and sugar bowls. After circling the sink, they step onto the glass plate of the electric cooker. It is slick as an ice rink, so they hold hands, making a chain to keep their balance. Their movements grow smooth and sure, and they glide across like a practiced skating team. The feeling is wonderful, more akin to flying than walking. At the far edge, Pa turns them and leads them back across, twisting and twirling with such grace that you might think you were watching one dancer rather than four. Smiles light every face as they slip from the cooker and head toward Pa's chosen place. They are nearly there. The climbing lines come out and the family scales the microwave, Pa at the front. Once they stand upon its roof, he casts his rope upward through a rectangular slot in the base of the cupboard above. He gives a testing tug. The picture hook on the far end holds firm. He climbs first, then waits for the others. To the rest of the family, the cupboard seems unusual. They have never seen one with such a vast mechanical shape housed inside. It is the household boiler, a solemn metal giant that breathes warmth through the rooms. Pa guides them behind the machine to a spot where he has arranged small bowls of cotton wool, as though they were a sofa with a cluster of chairs. At his suggestion, everyone sits. Their tiny bodies sink into the snug cotton, and at once the coziness of the place reaches them, the gentle blanket of warm air around the boiler, the tucked-away feeling of a nook that could hold a great many quiet afternoons. Pa produces a tray with tiny foil thimbles he has shaped into cups, each filled with steaming hot chocolate. The moment feels even more like home. He explains his method with pride. A speck of cocoa powder, a droplet of water from the nearby tap, and a brief rest beside the boiler, just enough to make a creamy, milky drink for all. The thimbles are impressed. The chocolate is wonderfully rich, with the deep flavor of dark cocoa and the faintest hint of sweet mint. Their imaginations spark as they sip. They picture what the place might become with a little decoration and a few clever furnishings. They imagine evenings full of chatter and comfort and cups of this luxurious drink. In the mornings, they could climb down into the kitchen and make straight for the windowsill to greet the day. How lovely that routine would be, gathering together to watch the world wake. They are captivated by the warmth and snugness of this secret space, but when the cups are empty, they are ready to continue. Now it is Ma's turn to guide. She drops a rope and snags the hook on the leg of a kitchen chair. Fastening herself with a toothpick used like a harness clasp, she lifts her arms with a flash of childlike mischief and rides the line down like a zip wire, arriving on the floor with effortless grace. The others follow, gliding one by one, exhilarated by the ride. They cross the smooth expanse and pass beneath the towering height of the kitchen table. Soon they reach a large wooden sideboard, a new piece the Marlowes recently brought in. It is made of pale pine that matches the table and chairs and lends a welcome brightness to the room. 3 cupboards sit below, their doors paneled with frosted glass. Ma explains that the middle cupboard is their destination. She plants her toothpick in the floor, vaults forward through a narrow gap, and vanishes inside with a deft little swoop. The others copy her movement until all 4 are within. Led by Ma, they thread their path around mountains of fine bone china, ranks of plates, bowls, teacups, and saucers, some of which are so smooth and so exquisitely delicate that they must surely be set aside for truly special gatherings, while others are plain in shape, like the clustered mounds of teacups whose curved sides gleam with such polish that they behave like little mirrors. Eliza, catching her reflection in one of those shining curves, is thoroughly amused. She is also genuinely surprised by how much she resembles a real, seasoned pathfinder. Seeing herself in that light, she feels a swelling pride in herself and pride in her family. She notices, too, a spark of new courage. Although she is the youngest and the smallest among the Thimbles, she senses that she can carry herself a touch taller now, with the steady confidence of an intrepid adventurer who has already earned her first map creases and trail dust. This is only one of several happy revelations in store for Eliza. As she rounds a corner at the very back of the shelf, a sight awaits her that feels both ingenious and inviting. Pausing there is a tiny table that Ma has prepared in advance. The table's top is fashioned from a single metal bottle cap, and set squarely upon it is a colossal loop of breakfast cereal. It looks for all the world like a giant ring-shaped treat, chocolatey, honey-sweet, and altogether lovely. It is so large that it could feed the Thimbles for a fortnight. While the family marvels at this astonishing prize, Ma explains her discovery. The little human girl of the house eats cereal every morning, right in the chair beside this very cupboard. Because she eats with the exuberance typical of small children, fragments of delicious morsels scatter everywhere. The result is an endless edible treasure trove just outside this door, not only at breakfast but at lunch and supper as well. The Thimbles gather around the makeshift table, stomachs rumbling at the sight and fragrance of the crunchy sweetness. Without ceremony, they begin to savor the treat. The crispness breaks pleasantly. The chocolate and honey mingle in a way that feels both comforting and gloriously indulgent. Eliza, chewing the last crumb, declares with beaming certainty, translated into plain narration rather than quoted words, that they could indeed be very happy here. Pa notes, with clear satisfaction, that this cupboard is markedly lighter and brighter than their previous hideaway. Heads nod all around. The family relaxes, contented and warm, their hearts as full as their bellies after this sweet, hearty breakfast. Once again, daydreams begin to rise. They picture what life would feel like nested here. Perhaps not as toasty as Pa's nook behind the boiler, but just as homey, and accompanied by the irresistible promise of daily delicacies. Ben is nearly ready to settle then and there. Yet, after the Thimbles leave the cupboard, he remembers that this portion of the scouting expedition falls under his lead. With sudden purpose, he springs into motion and steers everyone back across the kitchen floor. Daylight fills the room now. It is still mellow and golden like the first glow of dawn, but in certain places it shines more brightly, forming patches where sunlight puddles through the window. The family steps into one such pool of brilliance and finds themselves bathed in a gorgeous, potent radiance. Beneath their feet, the pale floor takes on the softly granular look of sand, and from outside comes the constant sound of water from the garden fountain, transformed in their ears into the far-reaching hush and rush of ocean waves. For a floating instant, it feels as though they have been whisked thousands of miles to a serene strand on some exotic shore. By the time they pass out of this tropical little moment, the Thimbles are glowing with cheer and fresh energy. They prepare to traverse the hallway carpet, which is plush and creamy and newly laid. Their moods are so light that the crossing feels unexpectedly easy. Even so, it is a long trek and not the simplest terrain. In times like this, the family feels especially grateful for one another. They take hands and advance together through the thick, velvety pile, supporting each other exactly as they did when they skated across the glassy hob. The newness of the carpet delights them, the spring in it, the gentle buoyancy, and everyone notices that distinctive just-installed fragrance. It lingers with them as they step through the open doorway and into the living room. Of all the rooms in the home, this space is the most transformed by the Marlowes. The burgundy carpet that Ma never liked has been replaced by polished mahogany boards that shine warmly. The old wallpaper is gone. In its place, sun-bathed terracotta paint glows from the walls. Framed artworks, pleasant scenes from nature, hang in balanced rows, and near them are simpler pieces that must be the child's own drawings, proudly displayed. A large leather sofa anchors the center of the room, perfectly placed for viewing a television mounted high on the opposite wall. This screen is, without a doubt, the largest the Thimbles have yet encountered. Eliza cannot help a quick gasp, while her parents exchange fond smiles. It would be entirely understandable if Ben had chosen this venue. Living near a grand cinematic window would be a dream for him. But as the family follows him over the glossy floorboards and up onto the coffee table, They realize his plan is not to tuck into the sofa cushions for a front row view. Instead, he guides them across the tabletop to a spectacle even more mesmerizing than the screen. Resting at the very center is a large rectangular aquarium alive with movement. Ben's expression shines with the delighted pride of a treasure hunter revealing a rare find. He leads them to sit within the shallow dip of a decorative panel carved into the table. From here, the thimbles are both hidden and perfectly positioned, the slanted edge giving them a grand, uninterrupted view. They sit shoulder to shoulder, watching the underwater world unfold. Curving pieces of driftwood twist in graceful arcs, and fish of every shade dart and hover among them. Even the smallest swimmers appear enormous to the thimbles, each one marked by its own vivid blend of colors and patterns. One fish in particular draws their attention. It is a radiant red with fins like broad, soft petals. Ben mentions, again conveyed in narration rather than direct speech, that he has named her Rosette. The choice comes partly from her color, which matches the ruby roses in the garden, and partly from the way she moves. Her motion is so smooth, so flowing, that she resembles a fallen rose petal gliding through water without any hurry whatsoever. For the third time that day, the thimbles are deeply impressed. Pa especially has long dreamed of living near water, and here would be their own private ocean, forever changing and endlessly soothing. The entertainment would be constant. The beauty would be inexhaustible. Practical considerations spring forth as well. Furniture could be tucked beneath the nearby sofa leg, or perhaps arranged within one of the drawers of the table below. Possibilities multiply happily in Pa's mind, until Eliza rises to present her chosen location before any final vote is taken. Moving with fresh confidence, she strides along the coffee table's edge and steps down to the mahogany floor with soft precision. Then she turns, not toward the hall as the others predict, but deeper into the living room. They pass the table and skirt around the back of the sofa. Eliza alone has scouted this particular corner, so she cannot resist glancing back to flash a little smile that says she knows something wonderful waits just ahead. She finds it nearly impossible to contain her delight, and in a heartbeat the others feel the same. Aligned with the wall is the child's dollhouse. It is tall, so tall that the top of its roof nearly reaches the sofa's arm. The front panels open to reveal 3 floors of bright, thoughtfully arranged rooms connected by miniature staircases at every level, with a little lift running neatly along one side. On the ground floor, there is a kitchen and a living room. Above that, a dining room and a bathroom, and at the top, the bedrooms. One is larger and holds a double bed at its center. Beside it are 2 smaller rooms, each with a single bed. Like the real rooms in the Marlowe's home, these miniature spaces are finished with care and fitted with modern, stylish furnishings that seem just right in scale and charm. For a long, full moment, the thimbles stand in reverent quiet, drinking in the sight of this marvelous miniature mansion. Throughout the day, they have found places that felt like home. This, however, looks like home as well. Here they do not need to imagine furniture or decoration, because the ideal choices already exist, better, perhaps, than anything they could have contrived on their own. It feels like a long-held dream arriving intact and freshly painted. It is no surprise, then, that Eliza's nomination wins the family vote. Even before she points out the tiny remote-controlled car parked beside the dollhouse, minds are made up. With that vehicle, the thimbles can travel far and wide through the rooms, revisiting the morning's wonders and discovering new ones whenever the mood stirs them. Back to the aquarium to greet Rosette, to the fountain to hear their private waterfalls, or to bask for a while in the warm square of sunlight on the kitchen floor that mimics a faraway beach. They talk, again we render this as narrative, not quoted speech, about filling the little car's trunk with loops of cereal, bits of cocoa, and other well-loved delicacies gathered safely and discreetly. Then they picture themselves returning to their very own dining room within the dollhouse, setting their tiny table, and sharing a meal with all the ceremony their scale allows. When the hour for rest arrives, Ben and Eliza will climb the stairs to their separate beds, soft and perfectly sized, in rooms that already carry the comfort of belonging. Ma and Pa will read them a gentle bedtime tale in soothing voices, then tiptoe quietly away, leaving the children to dream, deeply and blissfully, of new and bravely joyful adventures still to come.